once in a while.
Okay, it is 6 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting of the Mazomanie Village Board to order. The meeting was properly posted on July 19th. Roll call.
Harris. Steele. Pearson.
Here.
Nicholson.
Here.
Ruland. Schlamp.
Here.
Springstead. Here.
We have a quorum, so we will conduct business. Item 4, additions or corrections to the agenda. If there are none, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Motion by Scott.
Second.
Second by Jerry. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by the same sign. The motion is carried. Item 5, approve minutes from the last regular board meeting. Motion by Jeff.
Second.
Second by Scott. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by the same sign. Motion is carried. Item 6, appearances and significant correspondence. Now, if you wish to speak on an item that is not on the agenda, and I see the majority of people signing up wish to discuss what has commonly been referred to as the brush dump. If you wish to speak on that, you need to have signed up, okay? Now, we have a long agenda this evening. I shouldn't say a long agenda, but we've got a lot of items that are going to take time. So I will be calling on people to speak. If you have registered to speak and previous speakers have made your point, just pass, please. We need to move forward with this. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. If the speaker starts repeating something that somebody else has already said, I'll just gavel you down and you're done. Okay? We want to move this along, but we want to hear from you.
I will not talk about it.
Board members cannot take questions from you. So don't pose any questions to any board member. This is not an agenda item, and in order for interaction, it has to be posted as an agenda item. At the end of this meeting, the board will be going into closed session to discuss negotiations for the purchase of 2 acres of land from Fred Wolf. 1 acre of that land is currently used for community garden. The other acre we're proposing, and I want to get away from the term brush dump, we're proposing to recycle brush and brush only and provide an area for compost for village residents only, to bring their product. Now, if, just a little background for you. This item has been an item of discussion on open agenda 7 times in the past year, starting last September. We have had discussions with 5 property owners, 4 of which have said no to either a long-term lease or to purchase a property. The only one we've encountered that has indicated a willingness to sell some property is Fred Wolf. So, currently, some years ago, the village lost its lease with the Wolfer family on Mahaka Road. The brush dumped, and when I say dump, brush was burned and not really monitored closely as far as what was placed in that area by people, whether it was village residents or non-village residents or non-area residents. So a rush was made and the brush dump and continued burning was placed out at a dry lake bed at Lake Marion. Now the DNR has come back and said you didn't get a permit for that, you gotta move it. So we're now at the point of either providing a service to residents of the village of Mazomanie in picking up and recycling brush, or letting them find their own solution as to getting rid of their own brush. We haven't been threatened with closure to this point by the DNR, but we're getting closer to closure. As I understand from talking with Fred, he has an agreement with the folks of the community garden that they're welcome to use it free of charge, but if he sells the land, your use would be terminated. In talking with Fred, we proposed that the community garden would be allowed to remain in perpetuity as long as there was active management and as long as the property was maintained as a community garden. In closed session, we'll be talking about various things, including security, as far as how we monitor who's using that, what's being placed in there, as far as screening the property, probably with natural screening products such as arborvitae or some type of natural material. The board has not made a decision. And I would offer this to you folks, and I understand the concern of placing a brush recycling center immediately adjacent to a nice community garden. I understand that. So I would offer to you, if in the next 2 weeks, anybody can come back here and say, I've talked to a landowner within a mile or less of the village of Mazomanie who is willing to enter a long-term lease with you or to sell you property for the purpose of recycling brush, we will take that under advisement. Serious advisement. Okay. So with that as a background, folks, I'll start with, and Sue is timing, and I don't want to rush anybody, but we need to move this along, folks. So, Sally Turk, 738 Windmill Circle.
I'll keep mine short, because I know other people have.
But just, you know, I have pictures. I wanted to show those that have not been out there, the beauty of what's out there. I don't know if people have been out there in the last month or so, but I'd like to send those around so you can look at those while they're there. You know, just want to basically say, you know, point out about, you know, the beauty of it, and I would hate to have a brush dump being put in front of it. There have been many hundreds and maybe even thousands of donated hours put into that. Businesses and personal people that have donated a substantial amount of money, and, you know, have had many, many people drive by there and say the beauty that's there, and, you know, all of the time and energy and things that are going to, I guess, be lost by putting that in there. And that's probably all I'm gonna say, because I know others are going to get into detail and more specifics and facts on other issues that are presented. So I just wanted to express my concerns.
Thanks, Sal. Sarah Shackleton, 740 Windmill Circle.
Hi, I am Sarah Shackleton. I'm a gardener at the community gardens, and I also I grew up just beyond the garden down there, and I lived 17 years, and I built and lived for 17 years in the house just across the road, just across the street. So I'm really familiar with that area. Even though I'm a gardener out there, I'm actually not going to talk much about the garden. I'll let that to others. But before I start my own remarks, and boy, I hope I can do this really fast, John Wick, who has been a big donor and a big supporter of the garden, asked me to speak for him. Kind of a scary thing to do, but so I do have some remarks that John sent to me. He really didn't feel comfortable speaking here himself, so he asked me to say some things. And actually, in many ways, he he was saying what Gary, one of the points that Gary made to us earlier, and that is, we really need to think about an alternate site and work together, both the community and with the board, to find an alternate site. I know, and I know John knows that the current site is a poor site. But moving it to the site on West Hudson Road is kind of like in my opinion, a bad solution to a bad problem. And so it's just going to create other problems. First, let me make John's remarks here. In addition to his wanting us to work together to solve this problem, he talked about what we need is a high dry ground support that would support trucks that can turn around in there. Support an area large enough for trucks and cars with trailers to turn around in. He's suggesting 2 acres, 295 feet by 295 feet, or 250 feet by 348 feet. You know, John the engineer, he's got the figures. A short and solid access road for those trucks and cars, screening, and there really is no need for sewer and water, and there is sewer and water out there for the gardens. So these are the kinds of things John is talking about, and he just sees it as another way for the community to work together to solve a serious problem, like we did with the splash pad and some other things we've done. The other things I wanted to talk about was safety. Like I said, I lived out there a long time. A lot of people bike along there. A lot of people walk along there. I'm talking old people, young people, people pushing strollers. There is no sidewalk. On Saturday mornings, that park is very busy with all those soccer moms and dads and grandmas and uncles and zillions of little kids. And that's when people haul their waste. And to be hauling yard waste and tree limbs and stuff down there, there's going to be congestion, and let me tell you, having lived out there, they're going to drop tree limbs, and they don't come back and pick them up, folks. My sister-in-law Heidi and I have spent a year picking up tree limbs and yard waste that people just kind of left along the road. So I'm concerned about those, and I'm really concerned about safety issues. And the other thing I wanted to talk about really quickly, and I know I'm running out of time, is I also work on the 2020 committee, and the whole concept of living outside. And this garden, and our whole new logo, and our whole push in the village of Mazomanie to get young families to move here, to make this a real, is that, are you?
It's you.
Oh, okay. I think this is very compatible. The garden is very compatible with it. I also sit on the board of directors for the Sauk Prairie Healthcare Foundation. And our whole thing is wellness, and we're putting money and effort into this community and the garden as well. And we just see this as not compatible with those ideas.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yep. Sorry it took too much time.
That's all right.
John would have taken even more.
Barb Black, 6550 State Road 78.
Okay, I'm here speaking on behalf of the local food pantry here in Mazomanie, and we benefit from the community garden. We have donations. They donate probably starting in late July through like October, bringing us produce for people who could use it. And as a gardener myself, I'm also thinking it's not a compatible thing to have the waste you put next to the gardens. But I'll let someone else speak to that more clearly.
Thank you, Barb. Forgive me if I pronounce the name wrong, but I'll just go with Todd, 260 26th Street, Prairie du Sac.
Todd Works. Last name is Worker.
Okay, thank
The
you.
U and E throw people off, so.
It was your writing, not pronunciation.
I just tell people it's like burger or burger. All right, well, thank you for allowing me to just say a few words. I'll be brief. My role, I'm the executive director for the Sauk Prairie Healthcare Foundation. which is the fundraising organization within the hospital. We also do a fair amount of community health granting, of which the Garden has been a recipient in the past. Several years ago, they wrote an application for a grant that would help them get the garden started. So not only did we provide the funding for that, but then along the way, the hospital also kicked in some money to help out with the irrigation and the water. So we have a fair amount of money invested in this. This is a project that we'd like to see continue. We see tremendous health benefits, not only being a food source, but we've actually talked about doing future programming centering around providing it as a socialization mechanism. We see it addressing a very important need, which is in the whole area of mental health and eliminating isolation, getting people out of their homes, pairing them with somebody that could help or assist with gardening. So as it relates to that, it definitely is addressing community health needs. So I'm here just to speak in support of the garden, the future of it, and we'd obviously like it to continue. And as a side note, it's ironic that the committee that oversees the granting work we do, refer to it as the Grants and Gifts Committee, we're actually having a meeting at the garden tomorrow, and the point of it is just to, again, educate our committee on the importance of this garden and what it represents to the community. So, thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Jim, and I really can't read your last name, from Cross Plains.
Oh, hi there, I'm Terry Patwell. Terry, yes, I'm sorry. And I'm a member of the garden board. I'm also a Master Gardener volunteer. Our leader is also Master Gardener volunteer, which is from the Dane County Extension. We also have a student now that is from the Dane County, from the program. So we work on education, but also we work hopefully on good stewardship of the property as far as having ideal situation for master gardeners, and also to help other gardeners within that within the area to educate them directly. To just piggyback what Barb had to say, we actually are very proud that we grew over 1,000 pounds of fresh produce. I picked a large amount of that. I picked a lot of that in the rain. It's so countless hours that I've spent out there on that property. A little concern about the property is that it is alfalfa, which is a very deep-rooted perennial. If you're not familiar with alfalfa, it took us, we had to take a disc to turn over the soil. We had to pull a handful of roots. Those roots are probably can be up to about 1.5 feet deep. So a perennial, alfalfa is a very rigid perennial. If it's not cut and maintained, it will go out of control. It will look horrible. Just want to let you know, when you acquire that land, how much work it took to get that ready. Countless hours. Alfalfa is not a crop that is easy to get rid of. And so you need to consider that. Also, that area was affected by the flood last year. That area, that lower half was affected when we chose the property, and Fred, that allowed us to use. We went on top of the hill, we went on a flat surface so that we could get away from the hillside, because the hillside, there is a slope to that. So you would have potential problems with water management as well. So that's not, and the driveway is not very big. We actually put in that culvert, and yes, we did get money from SOC, but we also have raised thousands of dollars by doing brat fries and other means of raising funds. So we have spent a lot of time and effort on preparing that garden, and so, thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Oh, and I come from Cross Plains to Mazo because the garden in Mazo is far superior in quality than what we have. Far superior, and since Mr. Wick built that shelter, it is an amazing site.
Well said, Terry. Charlie Fagliana, 5641 Willoughby Road, Mazomanie.
Thank you. I've thought about this and done some research, so if you don't mind if I just read my notes, I think I don't want to miss any part. All right, so the community garden occupies approximately 1/2 of the parcel you're looking at. We occupy the back half that Terry just mentioned. assuming some reasonable setback from the street and some setback from our garden is provided, and given a pickup truck or large SUV has a turning radius in excess of 40 feet, by the time you put in maneuverable area, you're gonna have very little left. You might have 150 by 70 left to use. It doesn't sound like a very big area, especially what Mr. Wick said about that. So our group, I'm on the board of the gardens, we're concerned about the piles of waste and brush that's gonna be there. We think it's gonna attract vermin and smell bad and certainly not look very good. The aesthetics are gonna really detract from our garden, all the hard work we put into that. But also, I want to be sure that, at least from what I've read about the village ordinances, 355-4 indicates that such storage areas that you're talking about have to be kept nuisance-free and odor-free. It's going to be a tough job with yard waste and brush and all kinds of things in it, unless it's heavily controlled or fenced off so that people can't just dump anything in there, which we know is going to happen. My third point, again, concerned about the piles of waste. Public nuisance, again, your village ordinance 290-5 talks about noxious odors and things that affect people's health, and we think that's gonna be a big issue, especially right next to our garden. We have kids and lots of adults, so. My last point relates to the DNR. You mentioned the DNR is sort of asking you to leave the present site. They have rules for these kind of sites, even if they're just yard waste and brush. If you're gonna do composting, there's gonna have to be various permits, and there's a form called the 4400209, which DNR fills out. We really, as neighbors would like to see that because that's an impact. DNR would have to assess that as us being a neighbor to you. So thank you for your time.
We'll avoid.
Hi, I'm Lee Levoy, and my husband James and I own the storage units next to the community gardens and some other properties in town. Basically, I guess I just want to state our objection to the location of the brush dump. There, close to the storage units, attracting more animals and things like that could feasibly get into our storage units. With upside down units there. And we've also supported.
Mary Malsfeld, 9288 Forest Road.
I am Mary Bouchelt, and I'm also on the board of the garden. And Deb Pinkowski, who is our coordinator, wrote a letter. I'll be like a minefield, I gotta think out what hasn't been said, but I can briefly check into this here. She had a death in the family and couldn't be here. So we would just really want to thank Fred Wolf, who owns the property. He fully supported the actions of the garden, allowed us to act independently without needing to ask permission when wanting to make improvements. I believe Fred is acting in good faith when working with the village to sell the property. Being on government land would eliminate our property taxes and modify and solidify our perpetual existence. The contract we have with Fred states that we can remain on the property in perpetuity. We are forever thankful for Fred's support. However, I do not believe the community garden and adjacent yard waste site can exist in harmony. We already mentioned that we work very hard, incredible amount of work to get it to where it is in a very short time. It's almost a record. And then just last week, we have other people who come and enjoy it. I was there, for instance, twice now when a young family from Mazomanie came, because they think of it as their botanical garden. They have a newborn and a little toddler, and they come and look at the garden, they love it. And then just last week, there was a couple that had their engagement photos taken at the garden under Charlie's sunflower. So, you know, people really love it there. Okay, so we know that we're afraid. We saw this site that you have over at Lake Marion. It's scary. And, you know, they could smell, and we said all that, so I won't say it. And the brush piles are bad too, for hiding weasels, raccoons, skunks, and all that. I'm not gonna go into it. So the perimeter fence, protect the garden from furry invaders, we put that up. We still have some coming in, and we have to use Tabasco sauce and water, and we try to get them out. There was a family of skunks over there, and we were kind of nervous about that. I found the gate open, and I said, well, what's gonna get in there now? And it's very hard when you put all that effort in. I started my own ceilings. I was a horticulturist for 30 years on campus. And so, really priding in what I do, and then they get nipped off. And so, we are really afraid of that. We have insects to deal with besides, so, there's like quite an assault on us, and we're organic. So we're doing everything organically. I'm just hoping that we can find another spot that will work out, and we'll all look for them. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. And Dr. Huff, Wisconsin Heights Clinic.
Hi, my name is Janelle Huff. I'm a family practice doc employed by Sauk Prairie Healthcare and have my clinic here in Mazo. So I'm here on behalf of Sauk Prairie Healthcare and our hospital foundation. I'm also a member of the foundation board. And periodically, our hospital does health needs assessments, and we go into the communities that we serve. We get a group of community leaders together, educators, law enforcement, and we talk about what are the health needs of our communities that we are serving. And the thing that came up back in 2010 or 2011 when, just prior to the community garden starting, was that this is somewhat of a food island. We don't have a grocery store. It's difficult for people to find fresh produce. And so that was part of the impetus for the hospital getting involved in this, because we felt like it was a great way for people to have fresh produce and the food pantry to get fresh produce. The other thing that we hear, and even in our most recent health needs assessment, is that there are a lot of people who are isolated. And the community garden is a place where people come together and they talk to each other and they develop their own little community. They have conversations. It helps with that. And as Todd said, we've even looked at programming where we might pair an elderly person who used to love to garden but can no longer do that physically with someone who wants to learn how to garden and try to combat that sense of isolation. The other thing is we all need to find more ways to exercise. I, like everyone else in the world, struggle with my weight, and I struggle with finding the time to exercise, and gardening is a great way for people to exercise. We really feel like our place in funding the garden has been money well spent, and it is an exquisite place. As someone else mentioned, this garden, I've seen lots of community gardens, and this garden is beautiful. It's exquisite. So I appreciate you all hearing us out and your willingness to reconsider this.
Thank you, Janelle.
Thanks.
First of all, to all of you who spoke, thank you for the tenor, and thank you for the way in which you approached this. This could have been quite contentious. I don't disagree with anything any of you have said, but we need some help on this, guys. Sarah, you said it. We need to organize a little bit here. We've been working on this for 10 months. We don't know everybody in the area. If we found something that was 2 acres, that would be best. It's going to be all wood products. So help us if you can. Time is running out. We need some help on this. And your comments will not fall on deaf ears. Thank you.
Well, thanks for hearing us out.
Okay, moving on, item 7, village president report. I have nothing except to congratulate Sarah Ross on the completion of the 3-year clerk school.
3-year clerk and 1-year treasurer's station.
You've been with us 4 years already.
Good.
So, thank you for your dedication and completion of the school, and congratulations. I understand you finished on the 1 class.
Of course.
All right, village administrator report, item 8. I'll just summarize this. Peter worked 28 hours on utility billing while Tara was at the conference, 12 hours on resolving ordinance violations, 19 hours on financial projects, including Cardinal Substation Guarantee and preparing a 2020 budget estimate. Data request from the Public Service Commission for our pending rate case, electric rate case, 5 hours, new police contract for next year, 1 hour, FEMA grant submission, 4 hours, website went down, Peter spent 3 hours on that, and worked with the school and other organizations with partnering opportunities, 4 hours. That was Peter's last 2 weeks. And now we come to item 9, one of our favorite agenda items each month. We get to hear and be regaled on who got picked up.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a good one this week too, so. All right, good evening. A total of 182 calls for service in the village of Mazomanie in June. 104 of those are just check property. The other remaining balance, some big ones, assist citizen, check person, traffic incident, and a variety of other small numbers on different types of calls. Citations that were written through the Village of Mazo Municipal Court were some traffic citations, and non-traffic was just animal at large, DC, disorderly conduct, sorry, I shouldn't use abbreviations here, and then storage of junk on private property. Other than that, not too much else, and just a reminder for everybody, next week, Tuesday is our last week of summer rec. So we're wrapping that up, and then the following Tuesday is our first annual national night out that we're hosting as our own municipality. In the past, the counties hosted it out here, but we're gonna start hosting our own annual one. So put that on your radar, August 6th. August 6th.
Thank you, Troy.
All right.
Okay, moving on, item 10, Public Works Report. Mark?
See, we'll breeze through this here. Our stream bank restoration at the Murphy property on Bridge Street has been completed. I think it turned out real well. We've also worked with Vanguard on some tree removal. We worked to prep and grade some curb and sidewalk for the water utility related projects. Assisted Lifeline Electric with the placement of 2 backup generators at well 2 and 3. Those projects should be completed in the next 30 days or so. Worked with Wisconsin Southern Railroad to fine tune the grade crossing at Crocker Street. In that street project, the railroad crossing was included. They didn't tell us they were going to raise it 9 inches. So at the 11th hour, I had some challenging adjustments to make, but we worked through that. We've continued preventive sewer jetting and root cutting. We've done some maintenance work with the benches and bleachers at Lions Park. Spent quite a bit of time personally on the water and stormwater projects on Scott and Crocker Street. And also trying to mediate with the homeowners in that affected area. We've also spent quite a bit of time in the last month in Lions Park, just keeping up with all of the weekly activities going there and trying to keep the place looking clean and presentable. I've worked with Kraus Construction to do the finish, or I guess, the punch list at Lake Marion in regard to some landscape work that's happening right now. It should have wrapped up today. Cason and Associates completed the aquatic planting at the lake, and we have a contract in place with Keystone Hatchery for the fish stocking in October.
Mark, question, where are you on the water meter replacement project?
Winding down. It kind of took a pause in Tara's absence because she has been the key person to coordinate and schedule those appointments, and so, I'd say we're probably 90% done.
And so once you're done with that, it's all the electronic reading from the street.
Yes.
Any questions of Mark? Peter is gone, so we will skip the Vanguard Commission update and the item 12, update on Dane, Iowa wastewater. Update on EMS. EMS Commission is meeting a week from Friday to put the 2020 budget together. It doesn't appear at this point that there will be a request for a levy increase, which is a plus for us this year. But that's preliminary only. Item 14, Lake Marion update. Do you have anything further, Mark? Nothing? Item 15, update on Mazo 2020 committee. I know they have a meeting coming up, but that has not taken place yet. Item 16, violation of property ordinance. Again, that rests with Peter. Peter included comments in his administrator report on his work on the flood project, item 17. So, with that, let's move on to item 18. Public hearing regarding resolution 2019-13 to vacate a portion of Franklin Street in the village of Mazomanie. For those who haven't been following this, there is a blacktop area between the grade school and what was the old Methodist church, now owned by the Springsteds, that runs north from the street and has never been maintained by the village, has never been used by the village as a street, has rather been used primarily by the school as an extended play area and a drop-off area for the kids. We've been approached by the school district in Springstead asking if we would consider vacating that. There was a preliminary resolution read at our meeting in July 8th, and publication June 11th. And publication has been made in the local paper. The Plan Commission has reviewed this and has given their recommendation for approval of vacating the street. They did that on July 8th. So, the purpose of this public hearing is to hear from the public on anything relating to the vacation of the street. And let me start with, is there anyone here who objects to the village vacating that portion of Franklin Street just north of Ann Street? Jeff?
I just have a quick question. Does that go all the way to the creek? Does that
No.
work? Just
No.
to the top of the hill or?
Grass area where it drops,
Okay.
basically.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there anyone who objects to the vacation of this street? Is there anyone who wants to comment on the resolution that the village is looking to consider this evening?
I'll comment that I've spent time with our engineer looking at this and how this will affect future growth or affect our utilities, and it has no impact.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Anybody else?
Gary, I'll just comment on behalf of the school district. Went through my notes before the meeting, and Dale Green, who's the principal at Mazomanie Elementary, and myself have been engaged in conversations. Our first meeting regarding this topic was September 14th of 2018. So this is not something that we suddenly just dreamt of one day and decided to come to the village to talk about. We've had numerous in-person meetings, phone calls, emails. And really, as we talk to the Springsteads, it boils down to two things. Safety, which I've heard safety talked about a lot tonight on other topics as well. And for us as a school district, safety potentially of people, if they chose to take advantage of the fact that it's technically a street right now, there could be traffic there. And then as we worked with them on what is this gonna look like, and then just the future of providing safe access, we talked to Mark as well, emergency personnel and things like that, and we believe that vacation of the street will still provide all of those avenues. And then the last piece really that seemed important to us, and I think is important to the Springsteads as well, is just clarity for the future. Until we had our meeting in September, I don't know that any of us really in the district who still work there were aware of the fact that this was technically a street. So moving forward, we would know where the land is and whose it is. So I just think the clarity that would provide would be beneficial as well.
Any other comments? Any other public comments? Hearing none, we will then close this public hearing regarding resolution 2019-13. So then I'm going to move on to old business, item 1. Approve resolution 2019-13 to vacate a portion of Franklin Street in the village of Mazomanie. And I'll read that. Whereas the village board has the power to discontinue the whole or any part of any public way within the corporate limits of the village pursuant to section 66.1003 Wisconsin statutes when the public interest requires it. And whereas the village board has the power to amend the official map of the village of Mazomanie pursuant to section 62.23 sub 6 sub C Wisconsin statutes, and whereas the village staff recommends vacation of portion of Franklin Street, whereas on July 8th, 2019, the Plan Commission held a meeting and reviewed the proposed vacation and recommended approval, and whereas vacation of the above public way will not result in a landlocked parcel or property, and whereas in accordance with section 66.1003 sub 4 sub D Wisconsin statutes, a hearing concerning the vacation was held before the village board on July 23rd, 2019, and whereas the village board hereby determines in accordance with section 66.1003 sub 4 Wisconsin statutes that the public interest requires the village to vacate, abandon, and discontinue the portion of Franklin Street as described in the attached exhibits 1 and 2, because it is no longer necessary for use as a public right-of-way and it is of no public utility. Now therefore be it resolved by the village board of the village of Mazomanie pursuant to section 66.1003 sub 4 Wisconsin statutes that the public way described in the attached exhibits 1 and 2 is hereby vacated and discontinued because the public interest requires it. Be it further resolved that the official map of the village of Mazomanie is hereby amended in accordance with the provisions contained herein pursuant to section 62.23 sub 6 sub C Wisconsin statutes. Be it further resolved that the village clerk shall file a certified copy of this resolution with the Register of Deeds for Dane County. This was introduced first on June 11, 2019, and if there is a motion to approve the resolution, it will be adopted July 23rd, 2019.
Motion.
Motion by Scott.
I will second it.
Second by Troy. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor of approving resolution 2019-13 to vacate a portion of Franklin Street in the village of Mazomanie signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Let the record show that Jerry Springstead removed herself from the board table prior to discussion and is now returning.
You have to go back to it.
That motion is carried. Okay. All right, item 2, bandstand on the north side of the promenade. You remember at the last meeting, we asked Jeff to look at another location for the bandstand. It was originally proposed at the far east end of the North Promenade. The problem was it ran into, it was a difficult placement to keep it off the top of a storm sewer and off the top of an Alliant electric line running parallel with the paved footpath there. Jeff submitted this drawing, and you can see the 20 by 40 structure placed toward the east end of the North Promenade, and this works. Mark and I went out last week, I believe. Mark brought his wheel. We measured this. In fact, Jeff, it looks like you can go 3 feet closer to the path.
Yeah.
Than what is proposed here. There is going to have to be some work along the left-hand side, relocating some electric line that will be Vanguard. But at this point in time, this location would work. There is sufficient room from the end of the bandstand to the east end of the promenade to fit a 100 by 60 foot tent, which the Gandy Dancer Festival uses. In fact, I think it measured off at 120 feet from the front of the bandstand mark. The design of the bandstand was approved last year. The color of the roof was approved last year. The placement was approved last year until it was discovered it was being placed over this storm sewer and the electric line. So that's the background. Let me open it to discussion for the board.
I like this location. I think it's a better fit. I think it'll be good for that area.
One thing too, and when we went out after the meeting and it really looked at the spot, I kind of like this even better because you've got structures on 3 sides. So for crowd control, if you want to use that, for sound, I like that. I like that. And the back of it could be used, I talked to Marcia at Circuit Wild Rumpus. In the back, she's on the Dane County Arts Commission. The back, which will be slats, she could apply for a grant to do a mural, which I think would be a very attractive thing from Broadhead.
So tell me again, it would be facing?
It would be facing east towards the village office. Yep.
So what you're gonna see on the backside is that very nice sculpted metal roof.
Yep. And again, the back of the structure will have 1 by 4. I think the best example would be like a tobacco shed. Will be gaps in between to allow coming through, airflow coming through. Now the ramp, I didn't get from Tim or Bill where the ramp would go, but I think there's plenty of room to run it off the back.
Plenty of room on the west side.
Yeah.
Jeff, the only thing that's been brought up to me, and I would suggest this to the board, that construction not start till after August 17th, which is the Andy Days.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem. Tim would have to schedule it. I sent him a note this morning and he said it would be later, and that's fine.
Well, and the reason I say that, I'm sure that Mark will find some time between now and 3 weeks from now, although looking at his schedule, I'm not gonna commit you to that. But it would be nice if we had that marked off, so that when that tent goes in, and they're gonna put it as far as they normally do on the east side, it proves to them that even if they can't find a tent that can butt up to the bandstand in the future, which would be nice if they could do that and use the bandstand, that there is enough room for a freestanding 100 by 60 foot tent. And that's going to eliminate any nervousness, any concern on the part So I'm not seeing any negatives? Any, yes?
Can I just say one thing, and it's basically to Jeff, and that is, if you do put a mural up there on the back of it, you'll need to come to the Historical Preservation
Oh, yes.
Commission. I don't know that there's gonna be an issue, but,
Yeah.
just a reminder that, that's in the historical district, downtown district, and the Historical Preservation Commission did approve this, and so any alteration would come again. Thank you.
I've been seeing nods around the table. Is there a motion to approve the placement and permission to begin construction anytime after August 17th?
I'll make that motion.
By Troy. By Jeff. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Congratulations, Jeff.
Thank you. Sue, I dropped off a letter that Fred Westwood had sent. They each have a copy, I think that's a one, I will respond to him, but I think that's a wonderful letter, and I'll give him a hearty thank you because of his support of not only this project, but me. It's good son of the community. Thank you again.
Yep. All right, we're moving on to item 20, new business. Item 1, operator license for Lori Jo Sorensen. Motion by Jeff. Second by Scott. Discussion.
Thank you.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed by the same sign. The motion is carried. We're in committee business. Item 1, personnel. Nothing. Item 2, public works and property. Ray says nothing. Item 3, parks and rec.
Nothing.
Nothing from Jerry. Item 4, public protection and ordinance. We have public protection and ordinance met prior to the meeting this evening to discuss revision of a village ordinance which amends ordinance number 312-3, length of lawn and grasses, subsection B, public nuisance declared. And I believe it reads like this. Village Board of the Village of Mazomanie, located in Dane County, Wisconsin, to ordain as follows: section 312-3, sub B of the Code of the Village of Mazomanie be and hereby is repealed and recreated to read as follows. Public nuisance declared. The village board finds that lawns, grasses, and noxious weeds on lots or parcels of land which exceed 8 inches in length adversely affect the public health and safety of the public in that they tend to emit pollen and other discomforting bits of plants, constitute a fire hazard and a safety hazard in that debris can be hidden in the grass, interfere with the public convenience, and adversely affect property values or other land within the village. For that reason, any lawn, grass, or weed on a lot or other parcel of land which exceeds 8 inches in length is hereby declared to be a nuisance. That section I've just read already exists in the village ordinance. What follows is the change, except for stormwater drainage ways, natural lawns approved pursuant to section 312-2 above, and property located in a designated floodplain area or wetland area during periods of inundation where the ground is too saturated to allow for mowing. This ordinance shall become effective the day after publication as provided for by law. Jeff, what did your committee recommend?
Well, we recommend to go with this ordinance, there's a discussion on that, and, Mark had no problem with ordinance, which if he has to take care of anything, he's the one that has to do it. We do find nothing.
So the recommendation from Public Protection and Ordinance is that the ordinance be amended as
Yes.
read. Is that a motion? Motion by Scott,
Second.
by Ray. Discussion. All those in favor of amending ordinance number 312-3, length of lawn and grasses, public nuisance declared, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed by the same sign. That motion is carried. The Finance Committee, we have payment of bills.
We do, looking for a motion on that, at this point.
Motion to pay bills.
Motion by Jeff to pay bills. Second by Jerry. Discussion. Do you have any questions on any of the bills? I just have one, Sue. 2018 general obligation bond fund. Between Casey and Associates, $15,120. That's in line with what was budgeted.
I believe so.
Let's just verify that before we send the check. So with that exception, is there a motion to approve payment of bills? I'm sorry, we've got the motion, we've got the second. All in favor of the motion to pay bills, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed by the same sign. That motion is carried. Are there any announcements? Hearing none, we will, item 23, consideration and motion for closed session pursuant to section 19.85, sub 1, sub E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session regarding possible purchase of land for relocation of the brush dump. And that, is there a motion to go into closed session? Motion by Jeff. Second by Scott. And I believe we have to do a roll call vote on this.
Kara,
Yes.
Pearson,
Yes.
Mickelson,
Yes.
Ruland,
Yes.
Schlamm,
Yeah.
Springstead.
Okay, we are going into closed session, folks. Thank you for attending. We will come out. There's likely going to be no announcement. Anything in terms of price or if we're agreeing to purchase it, or whether we
Will there be an announcement about if you decide to purchase or not?
If there's a motion, the motion will be done in open session.
okay.
So they're
You can stick around if you want.
hanging out in the hall, you mean?
Yeah.
You got a cup? You got a cup?
No, but I got my hearing aids on. Talking about coyotes.
Oh, nothing that fun.
Oh, I will bring the chair back.
Ray's got it.
Oh, thank you.
So just two hardy souls stayed?
That's it.
We're hardy,
The hardiest.
the oldest ones stayed. Cause we have no place to go.
Okay, Sue is gonna read a motion that's pretty much gonna explain where we are and what our intent is.
Okay, we'll need a motion and a second to work with representatives of the community garden to look at alternate sites, work with legal counsel and engineer in the meantime with, to engage conversation with the DNR for continued use for the brush recycling site of the current property at the far southeast end. For the immediate term, postpone the discussion of the purchase of the Wolf property.
Motion by Scott,
Second.
second by Jerry. We'll refine the wording on that
Yeah.
a little bit. Let me just say to you ladies, I don't know that we're gonna be successful in talking with the DNR, so we're really looking to work with you folks to get some ideas for an alternate site, all right?
Thank you, we appreciate it. So, did you wanna set up some kind of a formal group with the, or how do you wanna have?
We spent 10 months looking, we're looking for ideas from you
Well,
guys.
I mean, how do you wanna engage with the community garden board is kind of what we need to know, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we're willing to engage with you, I'm not on the board, I better shut up. But I think Deb is.
Pick up the phone and call and say, we got an idea for a site.
Oh, okay, you won't want anything formal, you want, so if the board meets and comes up with some ideas or whatever, just,
Well, not only
that person
ideas,
off and-
not only ideas, but give us some hot leads. We've talked to so-and-so and
yeah.
they have an interest. I mean, you have a lot of people involved from out of the area that have contacts that we don't quite frankly.
Yeah, actually, that's I hadn't thought about the people who don't live in the village, who are engaged in this project,
Right,
being such an asset in that respect, but,
yeah,
yeah.
You're saying a mile from where? From right here?
from here. That would be
Circle.
preferable.
Draw a circle.
That would be preferable. All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor, as read by Sue. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed by the same sign. That motion is carried. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Jeff, second by Ray. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Motion is carried.
Hey, Ray,